Good evening, everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. This is the July 19th meeting of the Annapolis Transportation Board. Welcome all. And we appear to have a quorum. And Vince, you are here.
And I apologize that I'm late.
Good. Well, if you would take the roll, this would be great.
Give me 1 sec. Okay. Just give me a sec. Let's just start. Zoe, I see. Beth. Charles Brooks. No.
His icon is there.
Is he here?
Looks like he's on mute.
I don't see him. I don't see his icon.
I see it.
No, I don't. Maybe I got an old version of Zoom or something. I don't know. There's a lot of things missing
Sorry.
on mine.
There he is. Hey, Charles.
By the way, I gotta just say one thing, Kurt.
Yes.
If Tom hasn't been sworn in, then he's not really an official member of the board. He can sit in on everything, but I don't believe he can vote or anything. So you can't count him towards a quorum.
That's
I'm pretty sure.
true. We have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hate to say that, Tom. I'm sorry, but
6. We
No, but
we
I-
have a quorum, notwithstanding
yeah,
that
but I just
technicality.
wanted to remind you. Yeah.
Mhm. All right. Have you gotten through the list yet, Vince?
Yeah, I have. So you can go ahead.
David appears to be here, although I
Yeah.
haven't heard from him yet. And Carol. Okay. Anyway, welcome to the long hot summer. We have no minutes to approve, and so I suggest that we postpone as soon as Vince prepares those and I finalize them. I will send them around, and we'll have to do the approval formally at the next meeting.
And I apologize on that also. I've had a
That's
very busy weekend.
yeah. It's fine. It's not like we've done monumental things.
Yes.
We're getting ready to.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. We are.
All right. All right. You all have the agenda, I presume. Are there any changes that you would like to make to them before we plunge in? Hearing nothing, we shall proceed. The next item is a period for comments by members of the public, which is not going to happen tonight. Let me remind you of the schedule that we are on. We decided that we would go on hiatus during the month of August, as most activities in the city of Annapolis do, and we'll reconvene after the August recess in September. There was some sentiment, if I judge it correctly, for alternating between virtual and in-person meetings, and I propose that our next meeting, the September meeting, be an in-person meeting. And Hillary will
Mr.
arrange.
Chairman,
Yes,
didn't we have a motion on this last time and tabled it?
that could very well be. Why don't you put us in proper order then, John?
Well, I don't think that's a possibility.
I don't either.
But I think in the context of the agenda, that would constitute regular business. So, Mr. Chair, may I propose that we add where the committee will meet to the regular agenda?
That's fine. Move it up. All right. No speaker. We're in.
So have we decided that September is in person?
We're getting around to that in
Oh,
a
we
few
are.
minutes.
Oh, okay.
In a few minutes. All right, we're in regular business, and it is my pleasure to welcome a new member to the Transportation Board, Tom Schock, who has been approved by not only the Transportation Committee, but also the full City Council. Tom, we'd love to hear from you about what brought you to us and what your interests and priorities are and what you would like to motivate us to accomplish.
Sure. So I'm Maryland resident most of my life. I spent a couple years in Colorado, but grew up north of Baltimore in the Lutherville area, and then moved back to Maryland, to Annapolis in 2000, 2001 maybe. Anyway, about 20 years ago. That's when I settled down. I have 3 daughters. One's leaving for college this fall. I have a junior at Annapolis High School and an 8th grader at Bates Middle. So really I was made aware of the, opening on the board from my alderwoman, Rhonda Pindell Charles. She sends out a communication periodically to her residents and just said they were looking for volunteers. And I don't have any, particular vision for the city's transportation, but, happy to represent the ward, and provide some, voice for our area.
Okay, well, thanks very much and welcome. The next item is the comprehensive plan update. I am personally out of that loop and have been relying on both David DeQuincio and Kara Plewinski. She cannot attend tonight. She's having the grandmother of all headaches tonight, and even greater than us. So she cannot be with us. Dave DeQuincio, can you say anything on the whole planning front?
Yeah, hello. I don't have much of an update. I have been having a difficult time in of various respects these past few months with various issues that have been consuming most of my available time. I do, and pardon the dog, I do live close to one of the members of the commission, which is Diane Butler, and I see her out and about from time to time. And from what she tells me, it's all moving very slowly, which doesn't surprise me. But sorry, that's all I have.
Okay, anybody else have anything on the planning front? Carol, you have looked in from time to time on this.
Well, I have been attending to my top line item to respond to the planning commission survey, and I haven't done that yet, so I apologize, but I realize how important it is right now. So let's say it's a high priority with me. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is bicycles. And I'll tell you what has happened. There was a meeting of the Bicycle Commission, which I'm a member of and attended during the past few weeks or so. The Bicycle Commission voted to basically mirror our own action on the subject of bicycles on sidewalks. And they are recommending to the county government that the county government not only change its own law, and legislation is in preparation and consideration right now, but also recommend that the state default regarding the use of bicycles, use of sidewalks by bicycles, be flipped 180 degrees, so that instead of being forbidden unless allowed, it will be allowed unless forbidden. The city of Annapolis has made that recommendation, and we are on track for having the county of Anne Arundel make the same recommendation. I'm hoping to get a recommendation to that effect, not only from the Bicycle Commission, which I think is, which has already voted to do so, but also from the Transportation Commission of the county. The item will be a little more contentious there, but I'm fairly optimistic that most of the members are firmly on board for that. So that's what I have. Vince, because of your special interest in this topic, is there anything related to this general area that you would like to bring up for our consideration?
No, I mean, I agree with what you're saying with the commission, that flipping it is important. Also closer to home, I want to make sure that the city and the county, that when we make exceptions, we have a new business in Kurt and I's neighborhood, which is fantastic, and I've already been there several times, but they're encroaching on the bike lane at a corner. And so I'm sympathetic to their desire to have an outdoor eating area and all of that. But I'm also sympathetic to my use of the bike lane almost daily, as well as my kids' use. So I think it's important that, and I don't know that an exception was requested or granted, but I think we have an obligation to be mindful of those encroachments. So.
That's a good point. They have outdoor seating in two places. It actually wraps around the corner location of the ice cream store.
Yeah.
And that's I've not seen a wraparound before like that.
Well, I think that the part on Annapolis Street is actually pertains to Hard Bean, and the part on Melvin pertains to Always Ice Cream. But they share the use of the one on Annapolis Street for sure. So.
Yeah,
I don't know if there are plans on enlarging it. And I don't have any issue whatsoever with outdoor dining space, especially walkable in my neighborhood with ice cream. It's hard to argue about any of those things, but encroaching on, they're encroaching over a third into the bike lane. And since I both use that bike lane and have young children who use it also, it struck me, but.
well, if you're inclined to do so, I would encourage you to speak to the owner and get an idea of what the plans are. Is it going to change? Does he plan to change it, or is this it for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I will certainly have a chat, but I haven't had a minute lately.
After the chat, we can come back to it and consider whether we want to make a recommendation along those lines.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Anybody else have anything on bikes?
Should also say, Kurt, that the Tour de France that finished yesterday was one of the most watchable and exciting tours in years. We have a fantastic new general contender, and then the subplots within were also stunning. So for those of you who didn't catch it, if you see a wrap-up show that's still on your DVR or that's available, it was a great edition of the tour.
Great, thanks. Now, did we have the same winner 2 years in a row? Did I get that
True,
right?
And I think he's 22 years old. He's extremely young, and he was never even bothered this year. So he was never tested to capacity. He was on cruise control, and he won handily. So I expect.
Where is he from?
More. He's Slovenian.
Slovenian. I happened to watch the end of the Tour de France about 8 years ago in Paris when it came through down the Seine to come in. So I was visiting friends who live there. And
it's hard to explain to people what a ridiculous carnival it is until you see it in person.
Yes, and I took all kinds of pictures, and would you believe that my camera was stolen and I lost everything?
That's terrible.
French people would steal things?
Well, it was either the French or the Turks, because when I got to Turkey, it wasn't there anymore.
Yes.
So, and it was in my backpack.
All right.
I have something to say about not the bike trike, but my current commitment is to trying to get interest raised in ferries in Annapolis. And I would like to know what the board's response is to my probably fairly fantastic
Welcome,
notion
Alderwoman Tierney. Mhm.
that we should,
Can you elaborate on that, Carol? Maybe that should come under new business.
well,
This-
it is new business, and it's new business of mine because I have some contact with local folks who would be willing to listen to the idea of promoting ferry transportation in Annapolis. And I would like to know what the board's response is to my wild-eyed idea that we could promote transportation between Annapolis and ourselves and Baltimore with ferries. So,
Just Baltimore?
so what do you think, folks?
Okay, just Baltimore, not like St. Michael's or whatever, just
No,
Baltimore?
I'm not thinking, I'm thinking about our local community. I mean, we can travel from, from places in Annapolis to other places in Annapolis that would be accessible. And we could do it by ferry. And we could set a precedent. I mean, I'm coming off the wall with this. I realize that because I lived in New York City for 10 years. And I saw the development of the
Staten Island?
subway system.
Mhm.
But could we do it in Annapolis?
Well, the only thing I would say is, to me, having taken ferries throughout the world, actually, ferries require tremendous infrastructure. I mean, you've got to have roads that lead to the ferries. You've got to have docks that a ferry can come up to. You've got to be able to get the vehicles from the dock to the ferry. You've got to be able to have them park on the.
But we have
park
that.
on
We
land.
have buses that go to the docks. We have,
Yeah, but you're talking about a ferry in Annapolis,
yes,
not and so I just don't see where in Annapolis we have the kind of available infrastructure or even the available land to create the infrastructure where we could have ferries. I mean, I mean, certainly everybody's got an
the
opinion. but
infrastructure already exists, Beth.
What?
I mean, there are docks.
Where?
I'd like to interject just a moment. I think that this is something we can consider if that's the sentiment of the board. It's displaced in our agenda right now because it is an item of new business. And for the moment, I'd like to just postpone it to the new business segment of our meeting today. And if Carol, if you care to make a proposal which is somewhat more fleshed out by the time we get to that later in this meeting, I think that might be the way to proceed. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, I will do that. Thank you.
All right. So we'll move to the next item, which is no fare transit. As you heard last month, 3 of us met on this subject and made a preliminary assignment of responsibilities. Simply, John has been concentrating on the financial aspect of this possible initiative. Beth has been looking at case examples that we might steal from elsewhere. And I've been paying attention to some of the policy considerations. And we don't have any great results to present to the board at this point, but I know that John has been delving into the finances with Kwaku in some depth, and it would be great if you could summarize where you are on that, John.
Sure. First of all, Beth and I had a very good meeting with Kwaku on the 30th. Kwaku, thank you. As always, informative. And we sort of talked about a broad range of things. But Kwaku reminded us that there is a resource available in the Transportation Research Board. Are you guys familiar with the TRB?
Is that the Academy Board?
That's the National Academy of Sciences.
Right.
And there's the TRB is part of the National Academy of Sciences, and then it has, I think, 5 fingers. It has a ocean going or water vessel. It has an air aviation and an airports and a rail and a highway components to it. So I'm used to the airports and airlines part of it, but I totally forgotten that we have a resource here for transit. So we did go on to the TRB site and we pulled 2 possibly relevant documents. One is sort of older, it's 2003, entitled Fair Policy Structure and Technologies Update, Report 94. And then we have a Synthesis 101, which is Implementation and Outcomes of Fare Free Transit Systems. That seems more on point and it's a little fresher. It's 2013, 2016. What was the date on it? Do you remember, Beth?
13, I think, maybe
I think
14.
that's right.
I sent
Well,
around a
12.
copy. I sent around something from the National Academy of Engineering. I don't know whether it's the same thing. It was dated
It's similar. It
2017.
It is, but it's more a summary
Yeah.
of it, which is fine. But it's a more summary. Mhm.
So this is about 100 and some odd pages of 104 pages, this current one, and the older one's about 230. So there's a lot of material that we're just starting to sift through. Beth, I haven't had a chance to really, pull up to a fire and read these tomes.
Yeah, I sat in bed this morning.
Did you?
Yeah, reading it. Actually, the one that talks, like the one that you gave the summary of, Kurt, of the different 3 different areas that they looked at. Really and truly, they give 4. I can't remember now offhand. 4 areas that would be good to go to fare free. Not every system, and they found that the larger the system, the least apt it is to be good for fare free. But
I saw that, and we certainly qualify as a small system, don't we?
We also qualify as a tourist area, and we also qualify as a college town.
Yeah.
So those 3, Annapolis qualifies for all 3 of those as being really lend themselves to the fare free transit system. So, and I can't remember what the 4th one was for the life of me, but it doesn't matter. But 3 of them is a pretty good rate to say, hey, you could qualify. You could find that it's beneficial. Oh, the other thing was that the towns that there's 39 municipalities in the United States that are fare free, and 32 of them answered their study. So it was a really high rate. But the biggest thing that made it successful is that, yes, there were small urban areas, but there were areas where the fare box was an extremely small percentage of what it took to finance the transit system.
And that's us too.
Is us, yes, absolutely. And so just everything in that report points to the fact that it could be successful here. You've got to have all the right things in play. You've got to have everybody behind it, but it very well could be successful here.
So to that end, Kwaku has provided us some really nice reports for 2019 and 2020. Annual reports that have sort of high-level financials in them. And I think in 2019, Kwaku, correct me if I'm wrong, the fare box revenue was about 5.5%. And there was another about 6% coming from businesses like the state government paying for state employees, those kinds of things. You called it organizational revenue, I think. Is that right, Kwaku?
Yes, organizational revenues.
So
John,
what we
a
don't know
point of
is-
information, could I ask you?
yeah,
The percentages come from both numerators and denominators.
uh-huh.
Does your denominator include the amortized capital investment?
I don't believe so. This is strictly a revenue picture.
Okay, so that,
So I'm not looking at expense. I'm just looking at revenue right now and saying
Okay.
what portion of the income are we putting at risk with this decision?
Yeah, in
Now,
my
I'm not
opinion,
sure that
the
it'll all go
full,
away.
right, in my opinion, the full picture requires us to have that other component too, because it is an investment by the public in the operation of the system, even though it comes in as capital funds.
Oh, absolutely. It's just the reports Kwaku gave us don't have a lot of cost data in them.
Gotcha.
They have some revenue data. I would call them, again, summary annual reports. So, you know, that alone has some value, but you also have to be careful about what you're looking at. So we've also made a request of Joe D. Dickinson, is that right?
Yes.
For a sit down and to see if we can get some more detailed financials out of the city. And that will start to get us the expense side of the equation so we can look at, you know, what are the expense ramifications of a free fare system. I mean, immediately I'm thinking, well, you wouldn't have any cash management to do. You don't have to pay people to count the money anymore. Those are probably part of Kwaku's normal daily operations. So,
John, that was one of the points in the Academy study, that fare collection and handling is a significant load on the system.
Yes. Yeah.
I
that's-
don't have
I was
any
gonna say
idea
that.
what it is on our system.
Yeah.
I can't speak more to the testimony of what Kwaku has done to do over the years to make the financial situation better in terms of what we are doing with the money that comes into the system for transportation than what he has done. I mean, I'm speaking as a total novice in that area, but I know that there has been discrepancies for years about what should be and has been done. And I give it to Kwaku for trying to manage that.
He certainly was very helpful to us. I'm a newbie here, so your history is very valuable. Thank you, Carol. I will say there is a third rail that we need to be careful not to grab hold of firmly, and that is the very common issue of, does all the transportation money stay in the transportation fund? And that we run the risk of touching that rail in this project, and I think we need to be careful that we don't embroil ourselves in that battle.
Well, thank you, John.
So I think that's Beth. That's most of what I had. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think we've covered it. I was going to mention about what Kurt said about the fact that the report made a strong comment about the fact the cost of collecting the money is much higher than you may think, and that cost goes away when you're not collecting the money anymore.
Right.
So you
We
have to. So
we
that's
saw that on the circulator when they got rid of the fare box, and they had to do an extra sort of routine to drop the fare box on and get it, and it took people and time and effort, and then there's counting. All that goes away. I don't know yet if we can quantify it, but we're going to work on it.
The one thing I wanted to say is that all the cities or municipalities that responded, that the amount of increase in their ridership, even in the first couple of months, was phenomenal. One as much as 40%. Most of them in the high teens to 20 in the 20% range. And that it didn't go down. It wasn't like a phenomenon that then all of a sudden reversed. They actually had continuation of this high ridership with the discontinuation of the fare box. So that really shows that we've got that potential here.
Yep.
That's really an important point. One of the indices of success of a transportation system is the cost per ride. And if you attract more people, that cost just goes down, irrespective of whether the total cost goes up. The cost per ride plummets as you make your transit system more popular.
Yes, and I think, Kwaku, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you say that some of the grant money or money that you get from the state and or the county is based on how many people ride the system? So as your ridership goes up, you'll get more money. And that was in the report too, that many of the municipalities that had that. And I thought you told us that. Am I wrong, John?
I think what I said was that if you go back to 2014, when they were thinking of cutting the service and increasing fare, our analysis based upon empirical studies from Inno Transportation Center did indicate that with increase in fares, you are going to have a decrease in ridership. So there is a very strong correlation between these two variables.
Okay.
Which means that if we are successful with the free fare, we do expect increase in ridership.
Yeah, yeah. So,
and that should generate an increase in grant revenue, and that should increase potentially an increase in advertising revenue.
Yeah, I thought that we agreed that went together. So, and then of course, advertising revenue, absolutely.
So what the goal of the analysis is to determine if free fare is self-funding on its own. If these changes that we think these positive changes would happen would fully offset the revenue lost. And again, the revenue loss isn't a huge amount. It's about $250,000 for Farebox over the year and about $250,000 for this organizational. Kwaku's been careful to point out that if we make it free for the riders, for the itinerant passenger, we may be obligated by some statute, I'm not sure at what level, to make it free for the organizations that are paying us as well.
At some point, we should bring the lawyers in on this, right?
No, it's a fact here. It's under the Title 6 of the Civil Rights Act. If it's free, it should be free for everybody. And John, not until about 2 years ago, the FTA did not make any distinction between passenger paid and organization paid. I don't know the basis of that, but the bottom line is that they are all fair revenues. For whatever reason that the FTA did access to separate the two, we are not sure of that, but we don't know the reason. But as I did point it out in one of my emails to you this afternoon, if you want to look at the fares, you have to look at the total fares. So,
at some point, as we move forward, I do recommend that we have the lawyers look at this very closely.
Oh, we would
find out what latitudes we really have.
Oh, you'd have to do that.
So I
don't think Kwaku would let us do anything without doing that.
Yeah,
I'd say we're only about 15% of the way in, so we're not there yet, but we.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we'd have to have a real plan that we could present to them too, and show the good, the goods and the bads and the pros and the cons, and just where the money was coming from and not coming from and whatever before we went to lawyers.
Right.
Well, thank you for this discussion, Ellie.
Oh, Ellie.
Oh, hi. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your in-depth research of this. As you know, during the budget, I was just trying to get some kind of a pilot. But just so that I'm clear on the objective, and there are some interim, I guess, I don't know, goals to obviously to increase ridership, but our end game is to have a self-funding system. Would that be a correct statement?
I'd say we're doing a study to determine if we can be self-funding.
Well, I would put it differently. I would say we are undertaking an effort to determine the feasibility, all things considered, of Annapolis moving to a no-fare system.
So that means we got to understand the revenue model in the future, what stays, what goes, what comes up when it goes down, and we need to look at the expense side, as Kurt pointed out. There are expense elements associated with the cash operations which should go away, and we need to look at the whole gamut of it. But I think at the end of the day, the real target is to increase ridership, and make the system more available and lower the barrier of entry to taking a ride on the transit system.
And also have the math model so that when we know, that we have that sweet spot, if you will, on when that ridership kicks in to receive more grant funding.
Right. We haven't started that, but that's on our horizon to
That's what we
figure
have
out.
Paku for.
There we go.
All right. Could I suggest that we, thanks so much. This is a good interim report, and we have a lot of additional work to do. That brings us to this item which we moved in the agenda, and that's after the August hiatus, which we are taking. We will resume in September, and there was a motion on the floor from the last meeting, which we didn't act on, about how we shall do this. I know that one of the options discussed was alternating Zoom versus in-person meetings. And I would like to float the idea of if we do that, doing our next meeting in person in September.
Where were the meetings held when they were in person?
We actually have the council chamber available to us.
That's great. That's fantastic for
And
me.
if
'cause my
not that,
office
then the
is a
mayor's
block away.
conference room.
There
We
go.
have met in both places at various times.
And the question is, when we meet in person, would we Zoom for the purpose of public access?
I'm still pulling the string on that, but I believe the more probable outcome is that it'll be all of one or the other each time we meet. It would be nice to have both options, but I just don't know whether that's going to work. The council is using Skype to do both, but I don't know whether that's available to us.
Skype is going away. So you want to look at Teams or Zoom, or I think even GoToMeeting is going away.
Yeah, we're going to wean away from Skype. We had to have that option because it was unclear on our opening and some of the requirements. But as it stands now, though, we do have a conflict with the Housing Standing Committee, so we would be meeting in the mayor's office.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, what is that, Ellie? Which is the committee?
Housing and Human Welfare Standing Committee, and that
I
meets
see.
at 6:30.
Okay.
Kurt, I know you're the board president, but what's the mechanism for me calling dibs on the mayor's chair?
Not high.
Throwing
Oh,
it
you
out
can
there.
call dibs all you want. You ain't getting it.
Okay. So could we have a motion on this, on what
I
we
think we
shall
have
do?
one. Vince, do you have last week's? It should be a motion we put in last week's minutes. I know that's calling you out, and
No, that's okay. Let me look. I don't have that in my notes.
Okay,
Well, we
I'll
can
make
make a
a
new one.
motion.
We made a motion. We made a motion for the August recess only.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we meet in person in September and that we alternate between Zoom and in-person meetings following that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion? If not, let us
I
vote.
have a comment.
Yeah,
I just think that we should probably have a clause in the event that we need to make any changes based on changes in the pandemic or in recovery or emergencies, snowstorms, rainstorms, that's our standing schedule, but obviously subject to change, given unforeseen circumstances.
I
There may be
agree.
circumstances like
Yes.
weather and such.
Weather.
So
Yeah.
can we amend that motion to give the chair the authority to change it up based on conditions at the time?
You want to make that motion?
I think so. So I
Okay.
propose that we amend the motion to say that the chair shall have the authority to change from one venue to the other as local Annapolis circumstances require.
Is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
All right, let's vote on the amendment first. All those in favor of the amendment, aye or nay? Aye.
Aye.
Oh, there's my hand.
All right. The amendment has passed. Now we go to the actual motion. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All those
Aye.
opposed? All right, we have the motion as amended is passed. We will see you live in September. All right, next item is around the table. So let's go according to the order in the agenda. Some of us have already covered our piece, but we will go through it. Zoe, you are first.
I do not have any updates tonight, Kurt.
All right, Vince,
Nothing.
Tom Schock. I have nothing.
Nope.
Nothing here apart from what I've already said. John Purnell.
I do have something. I
All right.
heard today on the circulator that
You
Reston
really
Limousine
love
Service.
that circulator, I tell you.
I
You
use
should
it all
never
the
stop
time.
riding. Yeah, but you should never stop riding it. We learn a lot of stuff.
Well, you're going to learn something now because I heard that Reston Limousine Service is going to replace the buses with electric vehicles.
Ah,
Does anybody know that?
I thought we heard that. Didn't we
Let
Let-
me
say that?
let me comment on that. We had discussion with SP Plus on that. My understanding is that I asked SP Plus to research into that and report it to the city. So we are at a very early stage of that. So
Okay. It was the driver that told me this, so let's consider the source. But the buses have 200,000 miles on them. It's their time. And I would, Kwaku, like to say on my behalf, please do what you can to make those EV conversions happen.
yeah, it depends upon the EV vehicle and the cost. There is a similar EV vehicle to this, generally because of the battery pack. In the US here, we haven't seen a very small one, except those that are based on the golf cart chest, where they can make it a little bit bigger. So that is an option we are looking into. And also the fact that it's roadworthy, i.e. the vehicle is certified to ride on public roads. So we are looking, let me put it this way, we are researching into that.
Terrific. Got
Well,
great
if it's-
confidence.
If it's small, the county courthouse is going to have problems.
Actually, the rumor that was presented by the driver today was that the new buses would in fact be smaller and they would be capable of going around State Circle, is what I heard. That's all rumor. It's coming from the bottom of the management tree. So take it for what it's worth.
Okay.
For the circulator.
That's the circulator.
Thanks, John. Jessica Charles Allen is not in attendance. Elvia Thompson could not make it this week. Dave DeQuincio.
Nothing for me, thanks.
All right. Charles Brooks.
Nothing for me.
All right. Carol, this is your opportunity to drill down a little bit on marine transportation. Is Carol
No.
still here?
I'm not sure. Because she
She's
didn't,
gone away.
she didn't vote for anything. So I'm going to say she went away.
Yeah, she appears.
Usually she'll
I don't
say
see
it.
her on the participant list, so.
All right.
How come I don't get that participant list?
Hey, Kurt.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I actually have a question?
Yeah, go for it.
I said no before. This is something that Kurt and I have both participated in virtual discussions on Facebook and other fora. But I'm just curious if other people are interested in Annapolis being a leader in the question of technologies that are making decisions for us. And as you know, Kurt and I live in West Annapolis, and every Friday we're impacted by Waze and Google Maps directing traffic through the neighborhood. And it's not simply a question of being annoying, it's also a question of, you know, per 1,000 miles driven, you have X number of accidents, et cetera. And I'm wondering if anybody besides me has an interest in asking, should we take a leadership position in these technological solutions, and whether or not we should allow technological solutions from, you know, San Francisco, say, or wherever, to be blanket applied to us without input. You know, there are more complicated ways that people discuss this, but you know, it's something I've been thinking about a huge amount, both because my own personal corner of the universe is impacted, but also because when I drive, I also use these services, and then therefore I am impacting potentially other neighborhoods that are not mine, or other jurisdictions that are not mine. And it's just something that I've been thinking a lot about lately. And
Well,
I can be more specific if people are not really getting what I'm saying.
No, I understand what you're saying. I do, but how do we prevent that? I mean, you can't go to things like Waze and say, okay, you can do it every place in the United States, but I don't want you to have anything, you know, that tells what the roads are in Annapolis if people need to jump off. So I just don't see how you can do that. I don't know whether you're asking that it totally be blocked, these kind of things be totally blocked in Annapolis. And I'm not sure that can be done either.
Oh, it can and is.
It can be done. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, for many years there were GPS and data blackouts at the Naval Academy, for example. And
but that's a little different. That's just
I agree.
A teeny bit different.
No, absolutely. My point is that the technological solutions are there.
Vince, I have a response. I've thought about this a lot too, and I'd like to come at it from two different points. First of all, is just to go to the root cause. The root cause is peak overloading of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, which causes overflow at peak times into neighborhoods. And ours is not the only neighborhood affected. I'm on the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Advisory Board and have been pushing for the implementation of peak pricing that would flatten the curve, the demand curve on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, and ameliorate the peak problem, the overflow problem into neighborhoods like ours. So that's something that goes at the source. The second thing that you should be aware of is that the Bay Commission is looking at the effective ways. They are aware of the fact that the overflow that is caused by the peaks is tied to implementation of Waze and other routing technologies like that. And they're looking into the possibility of linking the Bay information system to Waze so that drivers are given a recommendation that does not put them into the neighborhoods. In most cases, this spilling into the neighborhoods is counterproductive even for the drivers.
Right.
They're not getting the right information from Waze about what the trip costs are and what the implications are. And it's possible to, and I think this may have been done by Waze in other parts of the country already, that the algorithm for routing traffic is changed slightly to take into consideration the effects that you have raised.
Well, also, when you look, if you go on 50 on the other side of, on Kent Island and all, you see the sign
That's exactly
that
what I was gonna
that
say.
says,
Stay
if,
on the road.
stay on, I can't remember exactly what it says, but I mean, I see it all the time, but stay on 50, it's a better route or whatever. And it is, I mean, it is to go off and go into the neighborhoods is not. I have a feeling an awful lot of the people from when I get stuck in this, because we have a house in Delaware, so we are going over the bridge periodically, and we usually go around the Naval Academy and up that way. And every so often we get stuck in that traffic, whether Thursday or Friday, and it always seems to be actually local people that would get off at Route 2 or get off at St. Margaret's or get off at Dale Drive or those kind of, it's those people that get off and go through the neighborhoods. So even if you prevented ways, it wouldn't prevent those people, but it would prevent a lot of the traffic though. Obviously it would. But
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and part of the reason why I was a little bit late tonight and haven't finished the minutes is my father-in-law just got out of the hospital, and so I spent the entire weekend. He got home Friday night, and so basically Friday until literally 7 o'clock, I walked in the house, and he lives at the bridge. He lives on something called Login Road. And so this weekend in particular, I got a huge dose of people trying to avoid bridge traffic. And as a local, I'm one of those people that knows all the shortcuts. And I can tell you that 90% of the congestion that I see on the service roads is not local.
oh, okay.
And it is a thing for sure, and I don't disagree with that. But my argument would be, back to Kurt, is that's standard traffic that doesn't need a deviation, right?
Right.
What I was talking about and what you mentioned before is when you're westbound, there are signs everywhere, stay on the highway. Eastbound, and it's a minor problem, I know. But I think that it has large ramifications, not just in Annapolis, but around the world. There are many, many, many jurisdictions that have like I go to vacation in Cape Cod. And for those of you who don't know the Southern Way In, it's the same thing. And it destroys South Boston every Saturday as people try to get to the Cape and get off the highway. And it's like there are literally 2 bridges onto the Cape. You can't defeat it. Just like there's 1 bridge onto the Eastern Shore. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting problem to me because there are technological answers that benefit the locals as much as I think they would benefit the non-locals. So it's something I'm interested in. I would be interested in pursuing it, and Kurt, maybe talking to you about the Bay Commission and seeing what else they're doing with their algorithms. But if people aren't interested, it can be my personal thing.
All right.
I'm not disinterested. I mean, it certainly comes to transportation in Annapolis.
Yeah. No, I think that's very much a valid thing for us all to consider, and I'd be in favor of putting it on the agenda for the next meeting if you're willing to bring us a more in-depth view of this problem.
Absolutely.
I have my hands up. Just a quick comment on that. Regarding the signs on 50 westbound, I think the city and the county can actually make a request to State Highway Administration, I believe District 5, which is on Defense Highway, to have a similar signs on Route 50 eastbound.
Where?
If you are on westbound, you see the sign stay on Route 50. If you are on the eastbound, you do not see those signs that you should stay on Route 50. With regard to those signs, both the city and the county can make a request to State Highway Administration and District 5 in a letter, and then you can go from there. With respect to the signs, I live in Easton, on the Eastern Shore. Based upon my experience of using the back roads and then the main Route 50 eastbound, when it's so bad, I stay on the eastbound. I have learned my lessons not to go through the back road. So it's something that we can start with a letter to the State Highway Administration. I believe it's in District 5, and we see what happens.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's good. Thank you, Kwaku.
All right, Vince, thanks for bringing that up. Let's see, we've got Carol, Kara is out, and Beth, you're the last on our roundtable.
I don't really have anything. I've said everything I've got to say.
Okay, great.
Kurt,
Kwok,
can I interject, since
yes,
I have something relates a little bit to traffic congestion, and I did have an update, but I didn't give it. So I worked to get with the city of Annapolis to get some DoD funding to support a resiliency project for the city, looking at impacts from climate change and extreme weather in the community, in the city and the county. And one component of that project is looking at evacuation and response, and is funding the contractor, the city's contract to Stantec Consulting has a task that's looking at intelligent transportation signals, both on King George Street, Route 450 corridor, Rao Boulevard, and Forest Drive. So we were able to get the funding for that because of evacuation, but it's going to help just in terms, ideally, once those signals potentially would be updated, will help with reverse flow and timing and sequencing. So that project just kicked off last week. The funding was in hand last August, but just due to COVID, there's been a delay. DoD did grant a year extension. So I'll have more to come, but we're forming a policy committee, a technical committee, and a kind of a specialized transportation committee to oversee that intelligent transportation signal component. So more to come on that, but it's a small part. The Naval Academy, obviously, we're concerned about evacuation and response and overall congestion. We do not own the signals or operate the signals that cut through on King George or Route 450. So we work closely with the State Highway Administration on that, but we get a lot of requests for changes in timing and sequencing on those. But I think this project will help at least move the ball forward in getting a better system of transportation signals that are linked.
thank you for that very interesting update, Zoe. Kwaku, the agenda has you speaking next. You have provided 2 reports to us, and I thank you for those. Is there anything in addition to that that you would like to bring up?
Yeah, we have been talking to IT companies regarding software for the micro transit. Last week, we did talk to, I think, one based in California. And just back-to-back meeting, we also did talk to Montgomery County. That was very interesting. Montgomery County case, basically the county government gave the money and the mandate to go ahead and then do a pilot project. It was suspended during the COVID era, but they plan to bring it back. So after all these meetings, we are drafting an RFP for a consultant to basically develop the software for making the schedule. The software will also tell the driver that there is a request here, and therefore the driver can actually give directions to the driver to go and pick up the person. There are some few other challenges that we have to overcome. First of all, we have to design it in such a way that it does not compete with the ADA. We also have to get what is called a zone where the vehicle will be stationed so that it is not too far away from where the call or request will come from. So talking about zones, we have to determine which zones that you live in that you will qualify for this kind of service. Not everybody will qualify for that. So we are working on these things and then put out an RFP, and then we go from there. So last week was very interesting. I like what I did hear from one of the IT companies, very much with respect to what we are hoping to get. So hopefully you can get those ideas, not only even for the micro transit, but we also plan that in the RFP, they have to explore at a very high conceptual level the feasibility of a combination of a fixed route and general on-demand response. So that if you are very successful with the micro transit, you can basically extend it to the rest of the city. And in addition to that, I should be able to work with fixed route services on specific routes, but not on every route. So we are excited about that. That's for the fact that we are short of staff, but that was very good meeting last week. I think that's all that I have for now.
Kwaku, I have a question?
Sure.
I've been associated too frequently with software projects, which turn out to be much bigger than you think they're going to be at the beginning. To what extent are you going to be able to take already well-developed systems, well-developed, well-tested, well-used systems, modify them in small ways for application to Annapolis, and to what extent are we starting anew in this contractor that will emerge from the RFP?
My sense from the conversation with at least 3 IT companies is not, we are not going to start from scratch, kind of off the shelf, and then you adapt it to suit the needs of Annapolis. So it's not going to be looking at the entire system and right from the beginning, writing the software program and the various apps. One thing that we were made aware of is that once that is developed, we need to send a letter to Google and I believe Apple in terms of the apps to be in the App Store so that customers can download that, which initially we were not very much aware. But it's not something that we're going to start from the scratch. It's off the shelf thing with open, I think it's an API, and then it will be customized to our needs.
Okay, thanks. Our new member, Tom Schock, may have a particularly sharp eye in looking at these kinds of things. So I encourage you, Tom, to get involved. All right.
Okay.
The
Ellie?
you're
Ellie?
muted.
Yes,
There.
I just, I want to make sure that we're not, we're talking about a free fare system, and Kwaku is talking about the microtransit. The microtransit objective is more for accessibility, for minimizing any sort of obstruction to people getting onto our fixed bus routes. And we're not at the point where you need to consider that in the free fare study, but I just want to make sure that we're not on conflicting paths. Is that a fair concern? John, that I recognize you without your glasses?
Yeah. I don't think we are. And I think that we're aware of, we're pretty aware of where you are. And if we had any questions, we absolutely would come to you, John, Kurt, right? We wouldn't go off and say, oh, gee, should we have talked to Ellie? Maybe not. Maybe we'll just keep right on going. I don't think so.
Okay.
No, thanks for making that distinction.
We've already talked to you once. And
Kwaku is moving forward.
Yeah. So, and we've talked to Kwaku, so we know where you guys are coming from. So.
Okay, great.
All right. Is there any new business that members would like to bring to the table? John Purnell.
Yeah, I keep hearing about this app that the MTA has developed that has all of our bus routes in it. And Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, you feel the same way that, this thing is very valuable for Annapolis.
Yes.
It can be better, and I think it's working off of static schedules right now. It would be nice if someday it worked off live schedules. But as long as our drivers are maintaining their schedules, It's very valuable and can provide people with information about fares, bus stops, next bus expected, all kinds of things we've wanted to have. We should be grabbing this up and proselytizing it through Annapolis.
Yeah, yeah, and the thing is, it isn't just Annapolis city buses, it's Dillon's buses.
Yeah,
It's of course it's a circulator, but it's, it's also the state, the bus
70s, the
70,
70s
the
in it, yeah.
70s on there. And it even if you, because John did it, if you go out and say, I want to go, on 70, I want to go to the BWI, it tells you how to do it. Now, granted, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, but you can do it. And it tells you exactly how to do it. And I mean, this is just, and it's free. I mean, this is just a boon to people who ride the transit. And I mean,
John, does this already exist?
Yes,
Is it
it
something?
Look at the back of the 70. It's advertised
Yeah, the
on the
70
back of the
bus
70 bus.
has a big sign.
Yeah.
And actually the person who told me about it uses it all the time.
Good.
I was talking to her and she said, oh, but we already have that. And I said, no, we don't. She said, oh, yes, we do. She flips out her phone and shows it to me. And I went out and pulled it up on my phone. And
2 summers ago, we were in the Netherlands, and there is an app which has every transit system in the entire country on it. You can go anywhere. It's all integrated. It's all in the app. It's
yeah, and
fantastic.
their country is about the size of Delaware, so that makes just a little bit of difference.
Well,
to
a little bit bigger than that.
But
A little more
not
than
by
that.
much.
Let me give an update on that, because when I think Beth did bring it to my attention when we did actually meet the other day. I did research into that. Actually, I do have it on my phone. It's called Transit app. Basically use schedules to kind of predict when the bus is coming. So it's assumed that there are no unusual obstruction to traffic flow.
Yeah.
So I went in and I have seen it, but when you brought it to my attention that MTA has it, I wanted to know how MTA did get it. So I did research it. The company is based in Quebec, Montreal, Canada.
There it is. John's got it.
Yeah. So I sent them a letter asking them that you would like to actually have this information at our website. So I reached out to our web guru, Ina, and we did something, basically a link from our website to their website. So when she sent it to me, I said, well, some people may not know how the app looks like, because when you go to the App Store, you can have very similar shapes and patterns. So it would be a good idea to basically have the shape and the design of the act exactly as it is, and in that embed the link, so that once you click the sign or the logo, it takes you there, and then you can basically plan your trip. So Aina came back and said, for this, we will need a request from them. So she has actually sent out another letter. And I was saying that, well, if it's going to take a longer time, you may want to have the link. And she said, oh, I work with them all the time. It takes about a few days. So we are waiting to hear back from them, basically kind of advertising it. So I'm aware of that. We have put in their request. We are waiting to hear back from them. And very soon you will see it on our website, and also find a way to basically print it and put it on the buses so that people will know that they can use it for Annapolis Transit also. So we are working on it.
Hey, Kwaku, will you keep?
You are cutting off.
Beth, you're frozen.
Myself and John, and we talked about it.
Can you
And,
say that again,
I'm not
Beth? You were cut off for all that.
I was?
I'm
Okay,
sure you said something
I
very
asked-
interesting.
Okay, asked Kwaku if he would please keep you and I and Kurt informed as to where it is and what it's doing, because I've got, I've decided I was going to do some stuff on my own as to how to advertise it out, and I'll hold up on that, even though even in its general form is better than not having anything,
Yep.
because but
Yeah,
still,
Uh-huh.
if you're working on something with it, I'll hold up as long as you keep me informed as to what's happening.
There are two things we can do here. Remember, if you're putting it at the city website, it takes a different form altogether. That's why we want to make sure that we are not violating any policy with respect to the app. On the individual level, like spreading out the information to individuals or friends, I think that's allowed, because when you go to the app store, it's a free app. So for the individual, it's free for you to download. In terms of our organization, there could be a different set of rules. That's why we want to make sure that we do not infringe on any rules if there is any. So once we get the go ahead, and I'll keep you informed of any progress, or when you get the go ahead, and then the IT person, the webmaster actually finalizes it, he will actually let you know, and then you can go to the web page and then give it a try.
Okay, I'll hold up, because it can be confusing to people if they've loaded it once and then they find out they need to load it again, So even though it's a simple thing, but I'll hold up and wait a little while for you to pull your magic and do your thing. Okay.
Okay.
My concluding recommendation is that whatever Annapolis does should be harmonized as closely as possible with other transit jurisdictions, so that we can begin to knit things together. And by the way, Beth, the Netherlands is 8 times the area of Delaware. I just looked it up.
Well, it's still really small. I spent a lot of time there.
Yes.
And
It's even bigger
Okay.
than Maryland.
Well, I think we've pretty much done everything, folks. Unless there is something else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
United States, so.
I'll give you a
Make
motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
I did.
All right. Well, thanks for everybody's participation. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Great. We'll see you in September. Enjoy your vacation.
I'm going on the circular,
you.
John. I'll see what I can find out.
Great.